Yes, the Pats made the Super Bowl. Also, yes, there's significant work to be done to this roster. We start with their three biggest needs. This is Locked On Patriots.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening? I am your host, Nick Cattles, born and raised in New England, been covering the Pats for the past 16 years. Also the co-host of the Greg Bedard Patriots podcast with Nick Cattles and a sports radio veteran. Welcome to Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day. Let's go through the rundown. On today's show, while the Pats have lots of work to do, they have very few of their own free agent decisions to make. We'll get into that in the third segment. In the second segment, Mike Vrabel leaves no question about Will Campbell's future. But first, let's start with the Pats' three biggest needs. Here's the truth. 2025, the football season we just witnessed, was the start of Mike Vrabel's rebuild with the New England Patriots. And I know they got to the Super Bowl. I know that they exceeded all expectations, but from a roster building standpoint, it was year one. And you were starting with so many new faces in new places. Truly unbelievable with the turnover that the Patriots had on their roster, with the coaching staff, in the front office, that they made it to the Super Bowl in year one. But they did. They had a great run. But that doesn't change anything as far as the roster goes. This team still has lots to address. So let's go over their three biggest needs. I want to start with defensive edge. To me, defensive edge by far is their biggest need. Chaisson, who was an impact player for the Pats most of this season, most of the postseason, as we know, he is an unrestricted free agent. He has the opportunity to walk. Now, he's gone on record. He says he wants to stay in New England. That's what most players say, unless things end badly. And obviously, Chaisson just had his best season in the NFL. He went to the Super Bowl. Things did not end badly for him this year. So Chaisson says he wants to stay, but he's an unrestricted free agent. And who knows how much money is going to be thrown his way. That's one question. Harold Landry turns 30 years old in June. Now, the first month or so of this season, if you're watching Harold Landry, you're saying to yourself, yeah, baby, this is fantastic. Got this guy for at least a couple of years. He looks like Harold Landry of old. And then by the end of the year, he kind of looked like old Harold Landry due to the injuries. And he had to deal with injuries this year. He's had to deal with injuries in the past. So he is somebody that, you look at moving forward and you wonder, how much does he truly have left in the tank? Those were your starting defensive ends this year. Those were your two best edge players. You don't have much if you're looking at it. You don't have much committed to them when you look at the future of this program. Anthony Jennings. Great job by Anthony Jennings. He stepped in when the team absolutely needed him. But let's not forget, the Patriots didn't even think they were going to play Anthony Jennings this year. A lot of things had to happen. Keon White had to fail. Harold Landry had to get hurt. Braden Swinson had to be a complete non-factor. And so credit to Anthony Jennings doing what he did. He played some really good football, including in the Super Bowl. But he's got 1 year left on that contract. And so is he truly a piece for Mike Vrabel, Terrell Williams, Zach Core? Is he truly a piece? Clint McMillan, defensive line coach, for the future of this team? Or is he a nice story in 2025 to only be let go and replaced for 2026? Elijah Ponder, he had some moments. He showed some flashes. Undrafted free agent, fantastic story. I think he could be a good player for you as you look forward with this team and what Mike Vrabel wants to build, especially on the defensive side. But he's not there yet. He's not going to play 40 to 45 snaps next season per game. I don't see that happening. He could be rotational for sure. He can play snaps. He can give you some good football, but you're not going to bank on Elijah Ponder making some massive leap in year two. At least I don't think you're going to do that. Braden Swinson did nothing in 2025. So need number one, edge. And it would be fantastic if you landed a 1A legit pass rusher to go along with a couple of other guys, whether that's Chaisson returning, whether it's giving Jennings an extension and deciding to keep him in town, drafting a guy or two, signing another free agent that might not be that 1A pass rusher, but still can play plenty of snaps and give you good football. Edge is the number one need for this team heading into the offseason. Number two need is wide receiver one. Stefon Diggs exceeded all expectations as a leader, what he did on the field, but he's not a consistent game changer. He's just not the guy that you look at and say, he can get us 6 to 8 to 10 catches every single week, give you 100 yards, get into the end zone every couple of weeks. I just don't think he's that guy. All the credit in the world to Stefon Diggs and what he did this year on the field. All the credit in the world. And would I like him back? Absolutely. I have no issue whatsoever as far as the off the field stuff if it checks out. If everything checks out off the field, I have no problem whatsoever bringing Stefon Diggs back here and saying, hey, you're going to be our number two guy. You fit in the slot. We like you there. But you are really a number two at this point. You're 32 years old. We don't doubt your talent. We still think that you can play at a pretty high level. We still think you can get open. But we don't think you are a true alpha. And that's what the Patriots need. That's what they don't have in-house, is the true alpha of a wide receiver room. Somebody who walks in and no doubt, you say to yourself, no doubt, that guy can catch 10 passes pretty much every single week if you throw the football to him enough. If you can find that type of guy for Drake Maye, you take a big step forward offensively. So edge number one, wide receiver one, number two. Lots of options for the third need to me. You can talk about linebacker with Robert Spillane being a little bit older. Is Jack Gibbons truly the guy that you want? I thought Christian Ellis played better as the year went on. Did not think he was awesome in the Super Bowl. You could look at left guard if you don't believe in Jared Wilson. You could look at center if you want to keep Jared Wilson at left guard and get rid of Garrett Bradbury. Also free safety with Jaylinn Hawkins, an unrestricted free agent. But I'm going to lean tight end. When you look at the tight end room, Hunter Henry is incredibly solid. Had another really good season for the Patriots. I don't have much question about Henry and his ability to at least be a number two tight end next season. But he is 31 years old. He's taken a ton of hits, plays a physical style of football, and he's going to be a free agent after next season. So you have to start thinking about the future at tight end. I appreciate Austin Hooper, but I would like to upgrade. I would like to upgrade at that position. If you could upgrade at tight end 1 and slide Henry to 2, or if you keep Henry as your number 1 tight end and upgrade tight end 2 by upgrading over Austin Hooper, maybe Austin Hooper hangs around as a third tight end. But what I would like to do is I would like to upgrade. I would like to find a tight end 1 and slide Henry to 2. That'd be perfect. Or you're okay with Henry for another year. You kick the can to 2026 through 2026. You find that second tight end who is an upgrade over Hooper, and you add. I would also add in the draft. I would draft a legit developmental guy at that position. So if you have an upgrade over Hooper, you want to keep Henry, you want to draft a young tight end, I think you can do that. Again, give Drake Maye some more options. And you got to get younger at some of these positions, and you got to get more explosive and have that alpha in the wide receiver room. So that right now, I look at this roster, I say my 3 top needs: defensive edge, wide receiver 1, and tight end. Again, you can quibble with the third one, and we can go back and forth, but I think there's no doubt that edge and wide receiver 1 are the 2 biggest needs for Mike Vrabel and the Patriots. Speaking of Mike Vrabel, there's been lots of speculation and conjecture, even my own, about Will Campbell's future. But on Tuesday, Mike Vrabel put an end to all of it. That's next. This is Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Hey, if you love this pod but hate interruptions, try the Everydayer Club. Ad-free, Discord access, and more. Go to lockedonpatriots.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. And don't forget, of course, as you watch YouTube, by the way, thanks for all the activity in the live post game on Sunday night. Almost 17,000 views of that live post-game show last time I checked. Tremendous numbers. Thanks to every single one of you who have invested time into this product, into this content. Can't thank you enough as we start rolling through this offseason and get ready for the team building. Don't forget to give us that thumbs up on YouTube. Don't forget to throw a comment in, and don't forget to subscribe. Those things help us an awful lot as we continue to build this Locked On Patriots community. So on yesterday's episode, I said I was in no rush to move Will Campbell out of the left tackle spot. And I thought that Campbell performed fine before the injury. Yeah, he had some hiccups against the very best. He had hiccups against Pittsburgh. He had hiccups against Cleveland. We're talking about some of the best pass rushers in football. And yes, he had a bad postseason. We're also talking about some of the best pass rushers and some of the best defenses in football. And overall, if you took the entire sample size of 2025, I would give Will Campbell a passing grade. I thought he was average to above average for most of the season. Again, before that injury. He's only 22 years old. I would not be in a rush. Give him the full offseason, work on his strength, work on his technique. Well, Mike Vrabel made it official when he met with the media on Tuesday. This was transcribed by Phil Perry of NBC Sports Boston. When Vrabel was asked about Campbell, he said, quote, "Will's 22 years old. He's our left tackle. He'll get better. He'll get stronger. There were moments where he played well, moments where he blocked the guy. There's plays he'd like to have back. We're not moving Will to guard or center or tight end or anywhere else." Unequivocally, the head coach just told all of us, we are not moving Will Campbell. When you start to write down that top five on the offensive line, you can write Will Campbell at left tackle in Sharpie. They are not going to move him. He's not moving to left guard. He's not moving to center. He's not moving to right guard. He's not moving to right tackle. As Mike Vrabel said, he ain't moving to tight end. And I love the decisiveness here from the head coach because he's stopping the chaos. Now, of course, people will talk about Will Campbell during this offseason. There will be plenty of breakdowns and evaluation, and there will be some hysteria as we get ready for training camp in July and all of that stuff. But this is how you try to put the fire out. You try to put the fire out before it even begins. The head coach is well aware that people are talking about how bad Will Campbell was in the Super Bowl. He's well aware that his left tackle wasn't good in the postseason, but he believes in him. And if you believe in him, and if you know that he's going to be your starting left tackle in 2026, which, by the way, I had figured that. He was drafted in the top 5. Again, it wasn't like he was a complete puddle in 2025 in his rookie season, and he was 21 years old until last month. So, you look at this and you say, if you're Vrabel, enough is enough. We're not even going to entertain this. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to tell the football world We are not moving Will Campbell. That's commitment. That's commitment to the player. That's commitment to the process. That's commitment to your coaching staff and believing in the development of the player. It's also building Will Campbell up. Don't you think that Campbell is happy when he hears his coach go out there and tell the world, while a lot of people are yapping about his future and how he might not be able to play the position he's played pretty much his entire life? Could you imagine? Could you imagine if Vrabel hemmed and hawed, gave any doubt? The stamp of approval from his head coach and Vrabel being so unequivocal about the future of Will Campbell has to make the young man feel awesome. And this is how you build him up. After a struggling postseason, after people are asking questions about him, you build him back up immediately. You don't waste any time. You commit to him and you tell him, you're the guy. We're going to get better. And now Campbell can move forward, focusing on getting better at left tackle and not having to ask himself questions. Are they going to move me to guard? Are they going to move me to center? Let him enter his first full NFL offseason. Let him enter that offseason fully focused on the task at hand, not with stuff swirling in his head. So I love the decisiveness. Something else Vrabel talked about with the media at the press conference on Tuesday. Look, Zach Core, he helped his stock immensely. I don't know if there's any other coach that helped his stock more this postseason than Zach Core. You could talk about guys getting jobs like Clint Kubiak, but Clint Kubiak, he was considered one of the quote-unquote hot candidates before the postseason began. Before this postseason began, people were looking at the Patriots defense saying, they're not good. They can't stop anybody. They're not going to get the job done. And early on, it was, well, because LA doesn't have tackles. And then it was, oh, well, Houston didn't have Nico Collins. And then, oh, well, Denver didn't have Bo Nix. But Seattle was healthy. Seattle had their team out there, and everybody was waxing poetic about that Seattle offense heading into the Super Bowl. The defense did a tremendous job. Ben Solak of ESPN, I saw him post today that the Patriots defense, they held Seattle's offense to their lowest success rate this year. The defense did more than enough, as I said in the live postgame show. I don't know if there's anybody who went from almost unknown to being talked about as much as Zach Core. I don't know if there's anybody that went from being an inside linebackers coach who probably was an afterthought in New England, let alone the national level, to everybody talking about how great he was as a defensive play caller during this postseason run. So who calls the plays for 2026? Terrell Williams, thankfully, is cancer-free, as we found out a week or so ago. Well, Vrabel talked about it. And Mark Daniels of Mass Live transcribed, quote, I'll work through all those things here in the next couple weeks, days, however long those decisions take. So not as committal about who's going to be the defensive play caller as he was about Will Campbell being the left tackle in 2026. Now, of course, this is a different conversation. You've got a lot of personal stuff you've got to work through. The relationship that Vrabel has with Terrell Williams, the relationship he has with Zach Core. This was not, I'd imagine this was not discussed at all during the Super Bowl prep. They just flew in on Monday. They have media obligations on Tuesday. So you probably don't start talking about this until the middle or later this week, if that. And I wonder, do you leave it up to Terrell Williams because he's gone through a lot? And yes, he is cancer-free, but does that mean he can jump back into a job that's 70, 80, 100 hours a week? I think the Patriots are in a good spot here. I feel good about Core remaining if that's the choice. I'm okay with Terrell Williams getting the gig back. It was his gig to begin with. Mike Vrabel believes in him. He's had plenty of experience. He helped the team this year. I'm sure he game planned for the Super Bowl along with the rest of the staff. So I think they're in a good spot. Some other quick updates here. Drake Maye told the media he's not going to have any type of shoulder surgery. So he just needs rest for the shoulder. He got a pain injection apparently before the game, but he's okay. He just needs to rest it. Will Campbell admitted that he tore his MCL and he was dealing with that, obviously, and did not quite feel the same. He did say no excuse. I give Campbell credit, by the way. I did not like him not speaking to the media after the Super Bowl, but he took a step forward on Tuesday. He stood there, took accountability, was very honest about his performance and, his future and what he wants to be and what he wants to do. Talked about the injury, so I thought he took a step forward. It was nice to see. And finally, we'll talk more about this as we get rolling in the offseason, but Christian Gonzalez told the media he's going to let his agents deal with the negotiation this offseason. Not a surprise, but he did say, I was drafted, I'm paraphrasing, but I was drafted in New England. I want to stay in New England. All right, the Pats are in a better position than every other team heading into free agency. We'll tell you why next. This is Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The Winter Games, they're officially here. And if you're anything like us, you're locking in for events you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And that's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel, well, it just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care about most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. The drama of curling matches. We all love curling. They start slow and somehow they get intense fast. How about speed skating? Speed skating races decided by inches. Hockey games that feel different right from that opening faceoff. Even niche events become must-watch when you're fully locked into the competition. And FanDuel, of course, keeps the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. The Winter Games, they're on. And there's no better way to follow them with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. Don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, don't forget to subscribe if you're checking us out on YouTube. I appreciate you. Appreciate you an awful lot. All right, so the Patriots, they have the fewest unrestricted free agents in the NFL this offseason. They've got 6. The 6 unrestricted free agents are Chaisson, Jaylinn Hawkins, Kyrie's Tonga, Austin Hooper, Vidarian Lowe, and Thayer Munford. So, when you look at this and you break it all down, which we will, I think there's kind of 3 separate tiers to those 6 unrestricted free agents. I put them in 3 different categories. But I would first say this is an advantage for the Patriots because if you can handle your own backyard, if you can clean up your own backyard and clearly who's going to stay, who's going to go, if you can hammer out some of these deals before free agency even begins, if you speak to the agents and you understand the numbers and these guys are coming back, then that can allow you to efficiently line up your needs before free agency, right? If you re-sign Chaisson, chasing an edge might take a step back a little bit and say, all right, well, maybe we don't have to go out and go hard after, let's say, like a Trey Hendrickson. Maybe you still want to get a Trey Hendrickson because you think he's a pass rusher 1A. You could talk about Max Crosby. Maybe you're looking at the draft and maybe you say, well, we might not have to draft a guy in the first round because we know that Chaisson is going to stay. So you can handle your own backyard. Try to take care of the guys you want to bring back. Some of these other teams, they've got a bunch of unrestricted free agents. They've got a dozen, 2 dozen. They're working through. They've got to work through a lot with their own roster. They've got to have negotiations with those agents. They've got to figure out who's going to free agency, who's not going to go to free agency, all those types of things. And Patriots, your list is only 6 long. You've got restricted free agents like, Alex Austin and stuff for sure. But when we're talking about unrestricted free agents that you have no control over, if they get to free agency, if they get to the market, you've only got 6. So I feel like you can quickly move through that. I'd imagine that the front office obviously has already had these types of discussions. And I would think that Mike Vrabel and the coaching staff, they already know, all right, well, this is what we're looking at. I'm sure they already know if they want Chaisson, Jaylinn Hawkins, Austin Hooper, if they want those guys back. So you can quickly get to work on those, and then you move forward. So I think it's an advantage because you have to spend less time on your own UFAs while every other team, again, is going through it. Now, here are the three different categories. I would call these three guys, with all due respect, the no rush guys. Now, if you can sign them for cheap and you like them and you want to keep them, cool. But there's no urgency. Like, there's no urgency to me for the Pats to try to sign Austin Hooper to a contract extension. He's in his 30s. Last year, he signed a one-year deal for $5 million. He seems relatively happy in New England. You could probably get him for cheap. So I don't think you have to worry about Austin Hooper. I think if you want him, you can keep him. Vidarian Lowe, Thayer Munford, depth at offensive tackle. Now, maybe you were won over by Vidarian Lowe's time out there on the field while Will Campbell was out with the injury. I thought Vidarian Lowe was he was up and down, which he was in 2024 as well. Maybe more down than up in 24 and more up than down in 25. But do you think you can upgrade at that spot? I don't know. Probably. Thayer Munford was a late season add-on. He was used in 6 offensive lineman sets. So I don't think you have to rush on any of those guys unless you're absolutely in love with them, which I can't imagine that the Pats are absolutely in love with these guys. I think all three of them are inevitably replaceable if you need to do that. The most interesting guys, I've got Jaylinn Hawkins and his future. Solid free safety. I don't know if I'd say he's a great free safety, but he has exceeded expectations. The Patriots took a flyer on him in 2024. They brought him back on a one-year deal for this past season. He has exceeded all of my expectations. He's been solid. He has a connection with Craig Woodson that goes back to college. And Jaylinn Hawkins has come out. He's another guy that's gone on record and says he wants to stay. Now, what's the money you're looking at? Some of the projections would say he can make as much as $9 to $10 million a year. Are you willing to give Jaylinn Hawkins $9 to $10 million a year to keep him in New England, or do you think you can replace him at free safety? He's an interesting case. If you can get him for a reasonable deal, I have no problem. But he's going to be an interesting case. I think if you shot Mike Vrabel with truth serum, he'd probably say he would like to keep the Hawkins-Woodson connection for 2026 because they've got chemistry on the same page. They know how to communicate to each other. You don't have to work somebody else into that secondary. Then you get to Chaisson. I'm going to get more in-depth on Chaisson and what the Patriots might do and what I would do on a podcast a little bit later, maybe this week, maybe next week. But as we talked about in the first segment, defensive end, the edge is, I think, your number one need. And Chaisson this past year, easily one of your 5 best defensive players. I'd look at Gonzalez. I would look at Milton Williams. You know, there are guys there, Robert Spillane when he was healthy. But Chaisson would absolutely, Christian Barmore, Chaisson would be somewhere in that top 4 or 5. So how much is he going to make? How much are you comfortable paying him? Do you think that he's still, I don't want to say a rotational guy, but maybe not play as much as he played this year because you feel like you had to play him that much this year because you didn't think you were deep enough at that position? But we'll go more in depth on Chaisson at a later date. The final guy, I don't think he's interesting. I think he's kind of fascinating, and that's Khyiris Tonga because he was good this year. And then when he started to pick up injuries, there was a decline in his play. And I don't think he was very good in the Super Bowl. Now, again, he was dealing with some injuries. The other thing about Khyiris Tonga is the depth that you have on the interior defensive line. We talk about the lack of depth at edge. It's the complete opposite at the interior defensive line. Barmore, Williams, Corey Durden. Don't forget about Joshua Farmer, who you drafted and showed some flashes before he got hurt. But you've got Joshua Farmer, Leonard Taylor III, signed a futures contract with the Patriots. So he's in the mix. I mean, you already go 5 or 6 deep without even mentioning Khyiris Tonga. So I think he's going to be an interesting case. I don't know how much interest will be in him because of his position. He's been around for a little while, and he had to sign a one-year deal with the Pats. So it wasn't like his market was huge last year. He's going to turn 30 years old in July. So you might be able to get him back cheap or relatively cheap if you want him back. But I'm not sure, because the Pats might look at that and say, hey, man, no, we're going to roll with Corey Durden, Joshua Farmer, some of the guys who are younger. We feel good about that position. All right, that wraps up this edition of Locked On Patriots. Thank you for making us your first listen and for being an everydayer. Reach out to me on Twitter at NickCRadio. And don't forget to throw a comment in on the YouTube channel. Hit that like button and subscribe. And if you're looking for a gift for someone, make it easy. Check out the Everydayer Club. Ad-free episodes of this show, exclusive Discord server access, and more. Subscriptions can be gifted through LockedOnPatriots.supercast.com. Have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.